made Australia his home. Lovemore went on it and won the IBF Junior Welterweight Championship in a war against Ben Rubber. He's now retired from boxing, but has become a very successful solicitor. Welcome to the show, Lovemore. Thanks for giving us your time, mate.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for coming on, mate. Please tell us about your childhood growing up in South Africa.
I was born in a small town called Messina, very poor little town. So I come from a very, very poor family. And when I say poor, I mean, there were times where I would go to bed without a meal, for 2 or 3 days. So it was tough, and, I grew up, I was born during the apartheid era.
Yeah.
So it was really black, and it was really bad for black people during that time. I was exposed,
Really?
to a lot of atrocities. I witnessed a lot of, atrocities committed against my friends and family members.
That's not good, mate. You've seen it all. Look, please tell us how Lovemore got started in boxing. How did you get started in boxing, and how old were you?
Look, I always knew that sport was going to be my ticket out of, South Africa. So I tried all kinds of sports. I was good at soccer, but I had serious anger issues when I was young. So, and that didn't help, because each time I played and somebody played rough, I would turn around, I would knock them out, and then I'll get kicked out of the field. So I didn't last long. It so happened another time I knocked this kid out, and they got a security guard to escort me out of the field.
Wow.
As he was walking me out, he said to me, "Son, I don't think soccer is for you, because you never last too long in this, in the field. Maybe you should come out and try boxing." Now it turned out this guy was a boxing trainer and a boxer himself. So the next day I went to the boxing gym, and that was the beginning of my boxing career.
There you go, golly. So you love
and I
fighting,
remember the first
fighting
thing
anyway.
So
You love fighting anyway.
But I remember the first thing he said to me was, "Lovemore, we need to work on your anger, because this is not going to help you with boxing." But I thought, no, this is fighting. I needed to be angry, And he said, "No, And when you think about it, when you're angry, you make a lot more mistakes, and it doesn't work in boxing. Boxing is scientific. You need to be calm, so you can think and counter punch. And so I had to learn the hard way. He put me in sparring against bigger boys. They beat me up, and then eventually I realized, no, I needed to to listen. When I realized when I stayed calm, I was doing really good. And Paul, it changed me as a person, not just as a boxer. It turned me into this calm and collected person that I am today.
Calm and collected.
Yeah. And when I look at it, if it wasn't for boxing, growing up in South Africa, at an era where, almost every teenager walked around with a gun or a knife, I'll probably be dead, or locked up in jail, had I not changed my attitudes towards life.
Wow. So, how many amateur fights did you end up having, and what were your amateur accomplishments, mate?
Look, I had 68 amateur fights for 66 wins. I was 4-time South African, champ.
Mm-hmm.
I never got an opportunity, to go to the Olympics, because at the time, South Africa was banned from international competition. So each time I look back, I always think, had I had an opportunity, I probably would have won gold at the Olympics. You never know.
You never know. Jeez, yeah. So you turned pro in 1993 in South Africa, and you had a good string of victories. Please tell us about your early pro career, mate.
Yeah, look, I had some good wins in South Africa, until I had my first loss when I came up as very, very experienced Jerry Malinga. And what really killed me in that fight was I lost weight, too much weight, and I was trying to go fight at a division lower. I used to train with Philip Holiday, so, who went on to become the IBF world champion. So we were in the same division, and Harold Volbracht, who was our trainer then, thought maybe, if one of us, could fight at a lower division, there won't be, any clashes in the gym. So he thought I should maybe try fighting as a junior lightweight. I tried, but, I had to make weight so quick, and I was left drained. And, I lost my first fight on points. But years later, I fought the guy again, and I stopped him in 4 rounds.
Well, okay. This is getting interesting now, because in 1995, you travelled to Newcastle, Australia, and lost a disputed points decision to Cliff Martin on the Costa Zoo versus Roger Mayweather undercard. I was there. What are your memories of that fight?
Look, the most memorable thing about that is, because I remember when I left South Africa, the first thing I did was made a research about Australia. And I remember reading somewhere where they were talking about, Australia used to have a Keep Australia Wide policy.
Yeah.
So I was a bit concerned coming to Australia, thinking, it's like, I'm going to get the same treatment that I was getting in South Africa because of apartheid. But you know what? I was shocked when I got to Australia. The treatment that I received. People saw a human being. People didn't see a black man. They just saw a human being.
Wow.
So apart from the fight, I believe I won the fight, and it was great fighting on an undercard like that. But just the reception that I received, from the public, made me want to come back and live in Australia. So I fell in love, with the country right away.
Okay, after that Cliff Martin fight, I can remember Martin being booed out of the ring and you being cheered. You were just saying, do you remember that? And did that?
I recall
that reaction that affected your decision to make Australia your future home, wasn't it? Right there.
It was one of the decisions, Yes, the reception I got from the boxing crowd, and the reception I got from the public. I just fell in love with the country, and I wanted to come back the next year, and I did that.
We're not bad Aussie people here, are we, mate?
No, we're beautiful people,
Geez, that's fascinating.
We just like our beer, that's all. We like our grog, but we're beautiful people.
Mate, a beer never hurt anybody. It's just how you drink in moderation, I say. Okay, your very next fight, you challenged for the South African Super Featherweight Championship against Mifabeli Mifloppy. The result was a draw. Another close fight did not go your way. What's your recollections of that fight? Because that was a beauty.
Again, another fight, I thought I won, because I recall, even, knocking the guy down. But again, despite that, I fought him from his hometown. At the time, it was, if you came from a certain province, province is like a state, it was really hard to beat anyone from, the Eastern province. The only way to beat them was to knock them out. Everyone that saw the fight thought I won, but, that's boxing. That also fueled me, to move to Australia.
Okay, so this is the next, it's getting more interesting now. So after that fight, you travelled to Australia and you made Australia your home. Wow. What made you want to come to Australia, and how did the move come about?
Oh, like I already said earlier, I fell in love with the country, and I needed, an opportunity, because I wasn't getting the proper opportunities, in South Africa. I think in life, success comes, with equal rights. If you're given equal opportunities like everybody else, if you work hard, you will succeed. So I saw, some equal opportunities in this country, and I came back. Look, I wasn't just looking at boxing, I was also looking at a future for my, for my family,
Of course you were.
I didn't want to have, a family, children in South Africa and raise them in a country where they'll be denied, equal opportunities, because of the color of their skin.
Wow.
So that's one of the reasons why, I made that move to Australia.
Okay. In December 1996, you became a part of Bill Morty's promotions and you started fighting regularly on Fox Sports. You had an amazing run of victories against some of the world's best. When you look at those fights, one thing that is evident about all those fights that you never fought for any titles, not even an Aussie or New South Wales Commonwealth or ABBF title. Looking back at your career under Bill Morty, do you think he held you back a bit?
Look, not just, I'm not just the only one he held back. I believe he also held back Shannon Taylor's career. I think Shannon and I at that time, we had an opportunity to fight for world titles. We probably would have won world titles. But for some reason, Modi just held us back. But years later, I found out that, he actually had some, promotion. He had a deal with Fox Sports where for as long as he had Shannon Taylor and myself in his camp, they were paying him good money every month, to put on some shows on Fox Sports. So he didn't need to get a world champion, to get good money from, the network. But apart from that, I think he also knew that if I won a world title, I would demand more money, and eventually, if he didn't give me more money, I'll probably move to America or sign up with an American promoter. But look, I don't regret, I think everything happens for a reason, because when I had a fallout with Modi, that's when I enrolled at university, started studying law. So it turned out good for me at the end. It prepared me for a life after boxing.
Okay, it's getting interesting now, because in December 1998 you fought a former gym mate of yours and a mate of mine, a good mate to everybody in the boxing fraternity, Justin Rousel. Rousel had a world title shot lined up against Shane Mosley, but decided to use you as a tune-up fight. However, the fight was overshadowed with your war of words with Jeff Fennick and Rousel being allowed a 24-hour weigh-in, whereas you had to weigh in on the morning of the fight. In the end, you scored a 6-round TKO over Justin. You handed him his first loss. What's your memories of that fight?
Look, honestly, that fight shouldn't have happened. Justin and I were ranked. I was ranked by the WBC. I was heading in a different direction. He had an opportunity to fight Shane Mosley, for the world title. But I think egos played a big part. It was more about it was between Bill Modi and Jeff Fennick, and then Jeff Fennick and I had, when we had an argument as well that went public. It all became about Jeff and myself. So I don't think Ralph was just fighting Fennick's fight. And mentally, I don't think he was even prepared. Because 1 minute he thought he wasn't fighting me, next minute he thought he was fighting me. But the weight issue was another problem, but it didn't bother me because, he weighed in a day before, but on the day of the fight, he came in more than 5 kilograms, heavier. And I think it was just a tactic to try and pull out of the fight, because he had a fight lined up with Mosley, 3 weeks later. Okay. But, I was prepared, and I was ready for that. And at the time, what people don't realize is, at the time, I wasn't just fighting, to make a living or just to make money. I was also, I came to Australia on what used to be called a distinguished talent visa. So I was fighting to remain in the country. So I had to prove to the world, to the country that I had a distinguished talent to remain in the country. So anyone they put in front of me, I had to demolish. And unfortunately, I had to demolish my own friends.
Yeah, right, okay. Moving along. In March 2000, you fought another great Australian champion, Renato Cornet. Cornet, in his previous fight, had fought for the IBF Lightweight Championship against Paul Nasari, losing by TKO in the 11th round. That was Renato's big chance, that one. You stopped Renato in the 9th round and retired him. Please tell us about the Cornet fight.
Look, that was another BS fight that should never have happened. Yeah, I don't know why I fought him. I don't know why I fought him, but it was just Modi trying to keep me because, I remember he promised us, after the Rasul fight, I was going to fight for the world title, then it never happened. And then he said to me, look, fight Cornet. If you beat Cornet, who's already, went the distance with, who's already fought Spadafora. So if you beat him, it looks good on your record. Once you beat him, you get a title shot. I beat him and then I never got a title shot. So it was just another BS fight.
Okay, I'm enjoying this interview because the questions are getting better. In February 2004, you finally got your first crack at a world title. As a last-minute replacement, you fought Shamba Mitchell in Atlantic City, USA, and you lost a narrow decision. What's your recollections of the Shamba Mitchell fight?
Look, again, anyone that watched that fight, will tell you I won the fight, but it was all about politics. And I can tell you right now, at the time, had I signed up with Gary Shaw, I would have walked away with the title. Yeah. Because I remember years later, after I've won the same title, and he was trying to sign me up. He said to me, Lovemore, when you fought Shamba then, had you signed with me, you would have walked away as a champion. So, at the time, he was the manager and promoter of Shamba Mitchell. So okay. What does it tell you? Yeah. Just the politics in boxing. And there was a fight I took on a week's notice.
Yeah, okay. This is another pretty straightforward question. Do you think the result would have been different if you had full training for the Shamba Mitchell fight? Of course you would.
Look, I probably would have stopped him, if I had enough time to prepare. Yeah. But still, I think I beat him on points. But because of the politics, I didn't get the win.
Okay, well, it's getting better, this interview, because in May 2004, you received another world title shot against future Hall of Famer in Miguel Cotto in Las Vegas. You lost a close one. Please tell us about that fight. Geez, you fought
Yes, that was another.
Wow.
That was another fight I took on a week's notice. You know, it was great fight.
Week's notice here and there, unbelievable, mate.
You know, yes, and if you look at Cotto, you know, he went on to be one of the best fighters in the world. You know, and you know, the best thing that, you know, was, you know, I remember when he retired. After he retired, he was asked, you know, who his toughest fight in his whole career was, and he picked me. You know, when you look at the people that he's fought in his whole career, and then he picked me as his toughest fight ever, you know, that's an honor. You know, but yeah, look, you know, for me it was an honor fighting, you know, someone who went on to become a great fighter like him.
Mate, what was it like fighting at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas? I've stayed there.
It was different. It was different, you know, having fought in clubs for years, you know, and then all of a sudden you're fighting in front of 20,000 people, you know, and it's packed. You know, the atmosphere is just different over there. You know, I loved it. I
can't believe you can give a week's notice here and there to fight the likes of Shamba Mitchell and Miguel Cotto. My goodness. Okay, it's getting better. In February 2007, you had a war with Ben Raba. You won an 11th round TKO. TKO, what's your memories of that fight? I'm getting excited here, mate.
Look, you know, that was that fight I'll never forget because, you know, that's when I became a world champion for the first time. So, you know, it's very, very memorable to me. You know, there was a lot of, you know, bad blood between Robert and I. You know, he had, you know, said a lot of things before, you know, the fight, you know, trying to, you know, I mean, he challenged me a few times before that, and, you know, but I don't, you know, I always told him, you know, Robert, when the time is right, I'll fight you, you know. And I remember he actually went and fought one Rango for the same title, and I personally believe he got robbed. You know, he should have won. But, you know, when I fought him, I knew I was coming up against a very skillful fighter. You know, he was very, very elusive, and he had good hand speed, you know, so, but I came in great shape. You know, I knew my fitness was going to beat him at the end, you know. And, you know, if you recall the fight, I stayed on top of him, you know, I broke him down, you know, each round, and eventually I stopped him.
That was a great win. That was at the State Sports Centre in Homebush.
It was.
Yeah. Well, I remember that one. Okay. The fight with Ben Rubber was originally scheduled to be a final eliminator for the IBF Junior Welterweight Championship. Is it disappointing looking back at the Ben Rubber fight that you were not awarded the IBF Junior Welterweight Championship, belt immediately in the ring after the fight?
In a way, it is. You know, because you look at it, you know, it's always great, you know, to you know, given the belt in the boxing ring, you know. But you know, I'm not the first one, you know, to receive you know, a belt that way. You know, if you look at Lennox Lewis, you know, he was given the WBC title years ago. You know, when Brady Bow refused to fight him when he was the mandatory challenger. So you know, I'm not the first one, and it's happened in the past. But you know, it was a bit disappointing. But at the end, you know, I became a world champion. I won the title.
Wow. Okay, it must have been a great feeling. A week after the fight, that you were advised that Ricky Hatton had been stripped, and you were now the IBF World Junior Welterweight Champion. How did that feel?
Oh, it felt great. You know, it was the biggest feeling. You know, I knew that was going to happen because, you know, what people don't really realize is the negotiations that happens before the fight, or, you know, going into a fight, because I was so involved with the IBF. I was writing them all these legal letters, you know, saying, you know, it's either he fights me or, you know, you give me the title. You know, before I even fought, you know, Rabat, I suspected that could happen. So, you know, I remember writing to the former IBF president, you know, a legal letter and saying, look, you know, you have to put it, you know, in writing that, you know, if Ricky refuses to fight me, you know, you're gonna give me the title. And I knew, you know, Ricky was just, you know, didn't want to fight me. You know, he was making a lot of money at the time, and he was gonna make more money fighting, you know, people that he can beat. So he didn't have to risk his title, you know. So when and he didn't even need the IBF to make more money. So I suspected that could happen, but I needed to make sure that, you know, I don't have a situation where after I've beaten Rabah, then I have to fight someone else again for the same title.
Okay, so the first world title defence was in the USA against Paul Nasari. You lost on a unanimous decision. What's your recollections of the Paul Nasari fight?
Look, I recall that fight. I was actually fighting, Malinaji, the referee, and the crowd. And remember, the late Eddie Cotton. He was the referee. He didn't do me no favors. He knew. The only way for me to beat Malinaji was to get in and brawl him. But each time I got in, he would break us apart, and allow Malinaji to outbox me from outside, and he was just, that's boxing anyway. But look.
Okay, you rematched him, but before that, you had a win against Rafael Ortiz. So in May 2008, you rematched Malinaji in Manchester, England, losing this time by a split decision. Jeez, what did you think? What did you do different in your preparation for the rematch, mate?
If you watch that fight, anyone that watched that fight will tell you I beat Malinaji.
Yeah.
But going into the fight, Malinaji had already signed, a contract, to fight Ricky Hatton, who was the main event on that day. So there was already a deal put in place. They were standing to make millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. So there's no way they were going to allow me to win on points, and jeopardize, the money they stood to make. Yeah. So, that's again the politics in the sports, So I knew the only way to beat him, was to knock him out. But unfortunately, the knockout didn't happen. But anyone that watched the fight will tell you I beat him the second time.
Yeah, many had thought you beat Malinaji. They really did. Okay. In July 2009, you travelled back to South Africa and you fought Philip Ndou for the IBO Welterweight Championship. Firstly, were you related to Philip? Same bloody thing.
No, there were not relations at all.
Yeah. Okay.
My last name is Ndou, which Australians call me Ndou. But in South Africa, it's similar to Smith in Australia.
Okay. Right. Yeah, okay, I got you there. Hey, it must have been a great feeling returning to South Africa and winning the IBO Welterweight Championship against Ndou. Please tell us about the fight.
Look, it was a great fight, and for me, I was, I got an opportunity. For me, it was great getting that opportunity to fight in front of my people, and having that opportunity to dedicate, the win to my lifetime hero Nelson Mandela. Wow. So it was great for me. So that's one fight I'll never forget.
Yeah, well, okay, moving along. In November 2009, you defended the IBO World title against Ricky Hatton's brother, Matthew Hatton. This fight was a draw. Please tell us about the Matthew Hatton fight.
That fight, I was hoping, that I might, if I beat Matthew Hatton, I might get a shot at Ricky Hatton.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you never know.
You never know. It was a good fight, but it ended up as a draw. And but look, I was at the end. I think I was also heading towards the end of my career. Then, Father Time was also catching up with me.
Yeah, you think so? Okay, Philip. You still, you were coming towards the end there.
Yeah.
Now, okay, in your second world title defence, you returned to South. You loved going back home, didn't you? You won.
Yeah, it was fun.
You won by a split decision against the undefeated Bognagi's Malasso. What's your memories of that fight? Geez, you had some great fights.
It was great because I remember I took my kids with me to South Africa then, and he made some comments about he was going to beat me up in front of my children, and I just felt that was unnecessary. He didn't have to bring my children into it. And I needed to punish him for that.
That would make you mad.
And eventually I did, punish him for that. Again, it was great. Again, winning and defending my title successfully in South Africa.
Okay, your career is coming to an end, and not many people would know this, but in December 2010, you travelled to Mexico to fight current pound-for-pound king Canelo Alvarez. You lost by unanimous decisions. What's your recollections of that fight? I can't believe you fought Canelo, actually. I
did, I was actually about 40 years old then, and Canelo was half my age.
You say 50 or 40?
Sorry?
Did you say you were 50 years old or 40?
Nah.
I can hear you right, mate. You said 40. You give him a
I'm
good
hitting 50. I'm hitting 50 next month.
Are you?
Yeah. Look, I was 40. Look, the money was good. If it wasn't for the money, I probably wouldn't have taken the fight.
Yeah.
But the money was great, and I remember going to Mexico, and Mexican people are funny. Like when I was there, they loved their boxing. They treated me like royalty. Everywhere I went, they would take photos with me. They'd be, yeah, you're gonna beat Canelo. You're gonna beat Canelo. But on fight night, they all turned against me. They're all.
He's a Mexican king.
They're all pro Canelo.
They were cheering you up, mate, in the lead up.
But now it was a great fight. Look, I'm one of the few people that he couldn't stop. And remember when I fought Canelo, I was pretty much a junior welterweight, and I've gone up to fight him at junior middle. But fight night he probably came in as a super middle, so he was too big. He was too big, but great fight. He never hit me at one stage. Never. But I knew then, it was the end of my career. It was just, I was never the same fighter. Father time had caught up, and I shouldn't even have taken the next fight, with Kell Brooks.
Kell Brooks, I was going to get on to that. Just want to ask you one question. When you see Canelo Alvarez have his fights now, what feeling comes over you when you see Canelo?
Sometimes I'm shocked, to see that, that I actually fought this guy and I went the distance with him. When I see the way he's demolishing, his opponent. Again, it's honor to know that, I lost against a great fighter.
You'll go down as one of Mexico's favourites up there with Julio Cesar Chavez, I can tell you. Okay,
you go down as one of the best ever. I think currently he's pound the best fighter in the world.
Yeah, he sure is. And you went the distance with him, mate. And you could have beat him if Father Time never caught up with you.
I believe so. I believe so.
Okay, in your next fight, you travelled to England, and as you said, you fought welterweight champion Kell Brooks. Tell us about the Kell Brooks fight, because your career is just about ended here, doesn't it, mate?
Yeah, like I said, then, I shouldn't even have taken that fight, You
said that about 2 or 3.
Yeah,
I love that.
I was, I should have just, it's really hard sometimes, you've been a fighter yourself, sometimes we just think, we still got it, it's hard to retire, and I knew, I wasn't ready for that fight, I should have retired then, but yeah, I went the distance with him as well.
Yeah.
And then, but look, after that fight, I really wanted to finish with a win.
Yeah,
so I came back home and I had another fight with Gary Sinclair.
I was going to bring that up.
Won, and I walked away from the sport.
Okay, Gary was on the show a few months ago. You won the WBF welterweight championship against Gary Sinclair in August 2012. You won a unanimous decision. Were you happy after you give it away, mate? You can look back.
Look, I needed to finish with a win.
Every fight
and the
does.
thing is, and the thing is, I really didn't need to fight anymore. I was already, I was educated. I was, admitted as a lawyer. And I could have just gone straight into practicing law, but I just wanted one more, win on my record and walk away. And I was happy. I got that win, and then I walked away.
Did you have a good look in the mirror beforehand and say, I'll say this on nearly every show, you got to have a good look at yourself in the mirror and that at use-by dates coming up. Did you obviously did that a couple of times?
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah. I did, and I could feel it, When the time is right, to retire, you feel it, It comes to a point where sometimes the mind wants to do it, but the body just can't react. Then it's time to give it up.
It sure is. Okay, now looking back at your impressive career, who would you rate as your toughest opponent in the ring?
Look, I would say anyone that steps into the ring and fights you is a tough opponent. You can't really, pick one, but I would say, the Mexican kid, I can't remember his name, but I fought him, when I made my comeback after I had a fallout with Mori, I had my first fight in America against a Mexican kid, and he was the first ever to drop me,
Wow.
And so I would say, he was my toughest fight because for the first time I tested a knockdown, even though I got up, and finished the fight, with a busted eardrum. So that was tough, but, I would say everyone that steps into the ring, will always give you a tough fight. So I can't really pick one.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, you've sparred so many great fighters. Please tell us your memories of each of the following sparring partners I'm going to mention. Floyd Mayweather, you boxed him. Wow. How was it?
Look, Floyd, it was great sparring with Floyd, but, Floyd is a character. So, you had to make sure, I had to make sure, I was mentally prepared, to deal with his BS,
Yeah.
So, I knew I had to apply reverse psychology working with him because, he always tries to put you down, calling your names.
Yeah.
And I recall one of the sparring sessions, I remember the first time he started calling me Jumanji. So I said to him, "No, you fool, Jumanji is not from Africa. Try Shaka Zulu, and we eat little girls. We eat up little girls like you." Everybody started laughing,
Yeah.
And I don't think he expected, someone to come back.
Good
and on another occasion we were sparring, he started calling me the B word, and I didn't appreciate that, and I felt it wasn't right. We had women and children, in the gym, and calling people the B word. So it so happened that when he was calling me the B word, I caught him with the right hand on his nose, and it drew blood.
Yeah.
So I turned around and looked at the crowd and said, any of you, ladies here go spare 10 because this little girl just got a period.
Wow.
So everybody started laughing. He even laughed himself.
Did he? What? Oh,
He did.
What did he do? Okay, moving along. You sparred Jeff Fennick. What's it like boxing Jeff?
Look, I only had one sparring session with Jeff, and we all know how it ended up. They saw, a dispute as to what happened. Yeah, and that's what led, to the fallout between Jeff and I.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really, I can't really comment much on that because we only had one sparring session.
Okay, Costa Zoo?
It was great with working with Costa Zoo. We had so many sparring sessions, we did, hundreds and rounds, against each other, and it was great working out, with a great champion like that.
Okay, Shannon Taylor?
It was great working with the Bulai Blaster,
Blaster.
I recall when I fought Justin Balso, the Bulai Blaster was my main sparring partner because we expected Justin to come and brawl me, being trained by Fennec at the time, so we expected him to come and try and brawl. So, in sparring, I was brawling with the Bulai Blaster, so I knew if I could handle the Bulai Blaster, who was heavier than me, it would be easier to handle, Justin Balso. So, we had some great work, it was a great working team, with Bill Corbett, I miss those days.
Great guy, and it was great. I was there at the Boxing Hall of Fame 2019. Both you and Blaster got inducted. That would have been a great moment for both you guys.
It was great, to see, the both of us getting inducted on the same day. It just brought back all those memories when we worked together. And like I said, if Shannon was given the opportunity to fight for the world title, at the right time, he would have won the world title, and again, thanks to Bill Modi.
I agree. Okay, please tell us about some of the other sparring partners. We're coming to an end here, or nearly. Any other sparring partners?
Look, I've had a lot of sparring partners, I can't name them all. But, I'm grateful to anyone that ever, stepped into the ring and, assisted me. But, it's not just the sparring partners, you got to thank, but there's a lot of other people that play a big, part in boxing, like my friend, Ray Whitley,
great.
What people don't realize is, everyone that ever fought for the IBF title here in Australia was because of Ray Whitley.
100%.
He's done a lot of work, behind the scenes, putting these fights together. And people don't give him credit for that, people like Ray, Whitley deserve, we should thank them on a daily basis. And then, my great friend, who I believe, put these questions together, Harris Morris, and I believe because of these questions, your questioning, your line of questioning became, so conducive to a good, interview. So thank you, Harris, for these great questions you put together. But what people don't realize also, during my career, Harris also was the guy that used to provide me, with boxing footage, of all my opponents. So I always came to a fight prepared because I had an opportunity, to watch my, my opponents, all thanks to Harris. But, also, trainers, we often don't give them, credit for the great job they do, preparing us for fights. So, they deserve that.
They sure do. Your autobiography came out last year called Tough Love. Congratulations on the book. Please tell us the response has been towards your book. Have you sold a few?
Look,
that's the next question.
Yes, we've sold, we've actually, printed, in Australia we printed, the second edition, because, the first, lot sold out really quick, and the book just got released now in South Africa, and it's doing great. And
that's great.
I don't know if everyone is, some people might be aware of what's currently happening in South Africa, with the looting that all started, with the Free Zuma campaign. It's frustrating, what's going on, and it's disheartening. So what I'm doing is I'm giving out a percentage of all the sales, to help those people in South Africa who've lost their businesses, due to looting. This is a way to assist, those business people, to restart their businesses. And once, and that could help, revive the economy, because, once these people can restart their businesses, people that lost their jobs will get their jobs back as well. And I'm also considering probably, appearing in a few exhibitions as well, to raise money, to help revive, the economy, in South Africa.
Okay, that's fantastic. There is a rumour that a movie will be made about your autobiography. Is this true?
Yes, look, we've already been contacted by a number of, film producers who want, to make a movie out of it. So, we're just waiting for the right time and, to pick the right, film producer. Yeah, definitely, you can look forward to that in the future.
Okay, you reckon I could get picked to play your part, mate? As
You play Don King.
Okay, we're coming to the end here, mate. What are the future goals of Lovemore Ndou?
Look, it's no secret. Everybody knows, that I intend to go into politics. I'll probably return back to South Africa in the future.
Oh yeah.
And get into politics. I think, if you look at what I just mentioned earlier about the looting that's going on, it's got more to do with frustration. South African people are frustrated, by a government that's continuing to fail them. A government that's divided. Abraham Lincoln once said, a house, divided cannot stand, and that's exactly what's happening in South Africa. The South Africans, they need, a new party that will stand for them, a new party that will listen to them and provide them, with equal opportunities. South African people are sick and tired, of being, ruled, by a gang of, how can I say, people that just cares about their own self-enrichment. Corruption is a disease in South Africa. South Africa needs, people that are educated to run the country. And I believe, I might just be the man to bring the change in South Africa.
I reckon you, mate. That's what a great concept. Look, I love more 49 wins, 31 by KO. Geez, you could punch a bit, couldn't you? Mate, it's just
not bad.
It's marvellous the the hurdles champions have got to go through to get where they come, and you're a fine example of that.
Yeah, look, thank you. It's really a tough sport, boxing. It's very challenging, and I'm just grateful, to finish up my career, while my brain cells are still intact.
You still got your brain cells, mate. I believe you, mate.
Problem is there's a lot of sad, stories in boxing, and I'm grateful, that, and also I have a career, to fall back on at the end of, my boxing, so, I hope, some, young up and coming fighters, can take a page from my book, and realize, what you need to prepare for a life after boxing, and one of the ways to do that is to educate yourself, that way you have something to fall back on at the end.
100%, mate. Well, we're going to sign off with One Love by Bob Marley, mate, when you go out. Thank you so much, Lovemore Ndou, for coming on the show today, mate.
Thank you, my friend. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks a lot, Lovemore. Bye for now.
Cheers.
Thank you, and that was Lovemore Ndou. What a great interview that was. As I said, it's marvellous the hurdles these guys go through to be the champions they want to be. Okay, we're going to go to a break. One Love by Bob Marley. We'll be back with Brendan Smith. Do not go away.